Alright, as you can see, there's a massive bomb cyclone that is going to be affecting the northeast weather over the next few days. There's a few things that I want you to notice on this map. One, the low has dropped down to 971 millibars. Now, if you're not too familiar with millibars or reading pressure maps, just take my word for it that that is an extremely low pressure. The other thing I want you to notice is how strong these winds are. The purple coloring that you see here is representing 50 to 60 mile per hour wind gusts. And the other thing I want you to realize is how close this system is getting to the northeast. This is the one I was forecasting it yesterday, and it actually moved into the Atlantic and then moved back towards the east coast, which is pretty weird. That's why this storm has been so interesting to follow, because not many systems do this. Not many systems move out into the Atlantic and then totally change direction to affect the northeast weather. So, one, how powerful this thing is. It's in the 970s. That is an extremely low. Two, how strong the winds are. 50 to 60 mile per hour wind gusts, maybe even 70s. I think the highest recorded gust yesterday was about 69 miles per hour. I think we could reach a 70 mile per hour wind gust with this one. So those winds are going to be pushing water onshore on the east coast, leading to some flood warnings, something to watch over the next few days. And the other aspect of the storm is just that it's gotten even closer to the east coast. When I was forecasting it yesterday, I think the closest it got to right about where you see my cursor here. And as the forecast models have progressed and got better, they actually have this low moving closer to the east coast, which will really just ramp up the weather that we're going to see with this thing. So before we dive into the exact weather that we're going to see into the northeast, it's interesting to look at the path that this storm took and where it originated. As it turns out, it started in the southeast. This system brought about 10 tornadoes to Mississippi, Alabama, Georgia, and Florida, and then it moved off the coast and immediately intensified. Now, when I say bomb cyclone, the exact definition of that word is if a low pressure drops 24 millibars in less than 24 hours. And that's exactly what this system did. You can see when it was over the southeast, it was over 1,000 millibars. And then as it moved off the coast of South Carolina, it dropped down to below 975 millibars. So 24 millibars, 24 hours, defines this system as a bomb cyclone. But watch what happens here. This is where the storm gets weird. It moves out of the screen, it moves off into the Atlantic, and with most systems, that just means it's gone. We don't have to worry about it anymore. That's no longer going to affect the US weather. And then all of a sudden, it intensifies and turns back towards the east coast. And the reason for that isn't exactly what you would expect, like right off the bat. I had to do a little researching to figure out why this was happening, because like I said, it's pretty weird to see a system do this. And as it turns out, it has to do with this high pressure that we have sitting over Canada. I know that sounds weird. A high pressure in Canada is affecting a bomb cyclone that's going to be bringing weird weather to the northeast. But it all has to do with how high this high is. It's 1067 millibars. Again, if you're not too familiar with millibars, take my word for it that that is extremely high. And then think about the winds around a high pressure. They spin clockwise. So on the right side of this high pressure, you have winds blowing from north to south and then from east to west. And what that did, this high is so strong that these winds actually took our low pressure and moved it back towards the east coast. It's a process called retrograde. So it was these winds around the high that actually pushed this low back into the east coast. And like I said, it's going to be affecting weather in the northeast over the next few days. We already see the effects of this pushing in starting early this morning. By about 1 a.m., majority of Maine was covered in rain. Nice little rhyme right there. And then even the northern and very western parts of the state, we're picking up a little snow with this one. It's really a wet snow. And throughout this video, whenever I show the rain on the map, think of it as really cold rain. Most of the temperatures are about 40 degrees, a little too warm to get snow, but because it's so windy, it feels like it's below freezing. So whenever you see rain on this map, think of it as just cold, awful rain. That's really what this system is bringing in because the winds are so intense. The majority of the precipitation is going to be rain for the Northeast, as you can see by about 7 a.m. on Thursday morning. Most of Maine is covered in rain. Nice little rhyme again. Northern New Hampshire, northern Vermont, picking up a little snow with this one. We'll look at the accumulations later. It's not going to be anything too crazy, but it is something. And then some of those heavier rainfall rates start to build into the Northeast throughout the day today. So by 1 p.m. Thursday, again, Maine completely covered in rain. Massachusetts is going to get a decent amount of rain with this one too. We'll look at the rain accumulations, but there's a good stretch of the coast that's going to be getting over an inch of rain associated with this bomb cyclone. You can see very northern parts of New Hampshire still picking up a little bit of snow. That's because the cold air is, there's really only a few pockets where the temperature is cold enough to be dropping precipitation in the form of snow. Majority of these cities around here are around 40 degrees, but again, with the wind, it feels like it's below freezing. That's why this storm is just going to be pretty miserable for all of New England throughout the rest of this week. You can see this is when the system really starts to move into the Northeast. Let's see if it actually comes back into our screen. It does. At about 7 a.m. on Friday morning, you can see this low has actually moved back into our screen. And this is closer than previous forecast models were saying this system would get. You can see it's still 979 millibars. Very low. That's why these winds that are going to be pushing into the Northeast, we could be getting 50, 60 mile per hour wind gusts, and especially right along the coast of Massachusetts here, that's where we're going to have to watch for the flood threat. Because these winds are extremely strong, and what that can do is actually push the water onto the coast. So if you live along the coast, maybe check out when the high tides are, because when you get the combo of those winds pushing and then the high tide, that could lead to some flood damage along the coast here. As you can see, Massachusetts getting some heavy rain with this one. This is now working into early Friday morning. So that's the thing about the system. It doesn't just move in, then move right back. That high pressure really just has it pinned against the Northeast for a number of days. So really high rainfall working into Massachusetts about 7 a.m. on Friday morning. You can see that low starts to weaken a little bit, goes up to 983 millibars, and then starts to move a little bit farther south. So you're still getting rain. Basically all of Massachusetts, southern Vermont, southern New Hampshire, still getting rain throughout the day Friday. This is showing 7 p.m. on Friday, and you can see that rain is still in the Northeast. And then it finally moves off by early Saturday morning. So this is really going to be dictating weather in the Northeast over the next couple of days. And the interesting thing about this storm, what I was hoping was that the winds would be so strong that they could actually pull down some cold Arctic air from Canada, and then this could be a massive snowstorm. Well, take a look at the temperatures that you see as this low moves into the Northeast. You see a couple pockets in Vermont, New Hampshire, really the higher elevation places that are below freezing. To see where the below freezing temperatures are, just look for this blue color. That means the temperatures are below 32, so any precip you get could fall as snow. But as you see, New York in the high 30s to low 40s, Boston 41 degrees. But that's going to be the story for Boston. It's going to be about 40 degrees all day today and tomorrow. And then the wind gusts are going to be about 50 to 60, which is making that 40 degrees feel more like a 30 degrees. So even though it feels really cold, it's not cold enough to be getting snow. Really, the only snow we're going to see is in Vermont, New Hampshire, where it's higher elevations, and we can get those below freezing temperatures. Really, look at these winds though. These are some strong winds that are just going to be hammering Massachusetts throughout the day, Friday and Saturday. But again, the temperatures are really what's dictating the precipitation with this system. 39 degrees in Albany, 41 degrees in southern Maine, just a little bit too warm to be getting any snow with this one. And then throughout the day Friday, you can see it's well above freezing. So even though these winds are extremely strong and they're blowing from north to south, it's really not bringing down any cold Arctic air. You can see Friday is actually going to be pretty warm. There's places in New York that are in the high 40s, probably even reaching low 50s. Yeah, not going to be a big snowstorm for you guys. unless you live in the higher elevation places of Vermont, New Hampshire, and then a couple locations in Maine. You're going to get some good rainfall with this one though. This is showing the total accumulated precipitation, so how much rain we're going to be getting with this system as it moves through. Again, such a weird system. It started moving off into the Atlantic. Most of those, you just figure, oh, that one's gone. And then it just got steered back by that high pressure. It's been really interesting following this storm. As you can see, there are some heavy rain accumulations throughout basically all of Maine, getting over an inch of rain with this one, and then especially along the coastal locations. That's where the wind is really strong. That's just going to be blowing a ton of moisture into the coastal locations. You can see there's places in really on the coast of Massachusetts. You could be getting 2 inches of rain with this one. So think about that. That's right on the coast where we saw those high winds. So you get 2 inches of rain, you get those winds pushing the coastal waters onto your shore. That could lead to some flooding for you guys, so that's something to watch. But even though the system never actually goes right over the Northeast, it stays in the Atlantic, we're going to be getting those high wind gusts all the way into inland New York. You could be getting gusts as high as 30 to 40 miles per hour. That could lead to some wind damage. And you're thinking, why is the wind so strong that far away from the low? And it's because of that huge pressure gradient. You can see it pretty well if I go back to this screen. You have, that giant high pressure in Canada, 1067 millibars, and then you have this low, 973 millibars. That creates a huge pressure gradient here, which is really the key mechanism that drives winds. That's why even as far inland as New York, we could be seeing gusts as high as 40 to 50 miles per hour. That's a good indication of where we're going to be getting the most precip there. You see eastern New York, maybe 0.2 to 0.5 inches of rain. Vermont, you're probably around ½ inch of rain. More northern locations could be picking up some snow. And then really in Maine, 1 to 1.5 inches of rain. And then coastal and eastern Massachusetts, 1 to 2 inches of rain. I think really this area of Massachusetts is going to be the really location to follow with this one. That's where we're going to get the highest winds, the highest amount of rain. That's where really this storm is going to be hidden. I wish I was there to be reporting live on this one. Let's take a look at some of the snowfall that's going to come into this one. It's actually some decent snowfall for northern parts of New Hampshire. You could be getting 6 to 8 inches of snow with this one. Basically all of Vermont could be getting 1 inch of snow. So it's not the biggest snowstorm. It's not over 1 foot or 2 feet like we could be seeing if that cold air had been able to pull down. But it's something. We're in April, so we'll take any snow that we can get. About 1 inch, maybe up to 3 inches in the northern parts of Vermont. Again, that bullseye in New Hampshire, that's where we could be getting 6 to 8 inches of snow with this one. So this is going to be affecting the Northeast over the next couple of days. Forecast models will continue to progress. So if you want to stay updated with this one, you can subscribe to my channel. I do forecast videos every single morning. I just love following the weather. So if you like following the weather too, you can subscribe to my channel. The other thing you can do is check out my forecast playlist where I've possibly already made an updated version of this forecast video. So if you like weather, you can subscribe to my channel, and thanks for watching.